Welcome to this event on current developments and business opportunities for German companies in Bahrain, organized by Ghorfa, Arab-German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, in conjunction with the Economic Development Board of Bahrain. At the beginning, we will have a short introductory film about Bahrain, and then we will continue. Please enjoy.
We're island. We've been a trading nation for centuries.
There's a strange feeling the minute we land into Bahrain, and I'll say it's the feeling of openness that makes everybody comfortable.
The environment in the Kingdom of Bahrain is one conducive to investors from around the world.
Business based in Bahrain is likely to be more profitable than the business based elsewhere.
We have world-class infrastructure, a great geographical location.
You can process and clear your goods much quicker. From efficiency point of view, you tick all the right boxes.
Come to Bahrain and use it as a regional hub to take your product to the next level.
We have no operating costs, zero corporate tax, and we allow for more businesses to have 100% foreign ownership.
Bahrain is a perfect landing point for us as we continue to work across the region to really delight our customers.
Bahrain is not afraid to take the lead in terms of regulation and initiatives.
When companies look and set up in Bahrain, there's someone to help them, and that's where the Team Bahrain comes about.
We have ministers that are accessible in a phone call.
You get the OKs much faster than anywhere else in the Middle East.
We found a country where things could move very quickly. No red tape.
People of this country are its secret weapon. Capital is available everywhere in the world. Technology is mobile. But people really are the differentiating factor.
50% of the workforce in a lot of organizations are women.
One of our national objectives is to empower the clients by upskilling our Bahraini people and by making them an employee of choice.
I found we stumbled across a place where you're able to pursue your job and still have very healthy work-life balance.
Bahrain, until now, was our best kept secret. This is the place to be. This is the place to live, and this is the place to do business.
You have to come visit Bahrain to really understand the friendliness of the people and the friendliness of the location to do business.
This has made appetite. I may welcome you all. I may welcome the Excellencies ambassadors, Ambassador Abdullah. He is the ambassador of the Kingdom of Bahrain in Germany, and Ambassador Bergman, German ambassador to Bahrain. You are most welcome. Thank you very much for joining. As key speakers, we have Mrs. Dalal Buheji of Economic Development Board. She is the Executive Director for Investment Origination. Thank you very much for joining. And we have Mr. Makram Murad, the Country Manager of DHL in Bahrain, which is truly a regional hub for the global DHL network. Thank you very much for joining as well. And obviously, we have our host, Mr. Abdelaziz Al-Mikhlafi, Secretary General of the Ghorfa German Arab Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Abdulaziz, I hand over to you for a welcome remark, please.
Thank you all for the nice introduction. Let me first of all welcome the ambassadors, His Excellency Abdullah Abdulatif Abdullah and Mr. Kai Bockman for supporting the economic relation and for being supportive also here for German companies active in Bahrain, or they do their activities there, but also supporting business from Bahrain here in Germany. We know Bahrain and Germany enjoy an excellent relation. So that thank you very much for being with us today. Dear Mrs. Buhaji, dear Mr. Rad, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's given me a great pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Ghorfa to this webinar on correct developments and business opportunities in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Thanks a lot for your participation, and let me just give some thoughts and thank our partner, the Economic Development Board, for hosting this webinar together. And when we talk about when we start the year 2022, and we say let's start with Bahrain, our activities. And so that it is a great pleasure having you as partner here and having this webinar together. Dear participant, many of you are already doing business in the kingdom and have experienced the exceptional business environment and the hospitality of the country. Bahrain has implemented one of the most business-friendly systems of regulation in the Arabic Gulf, in the Arab world, and in the region at all. But it doesn't stop there. In context of the Bahrain Vision 2030, the leadership of the country aims to diversify its economy even further and to enhance the private sector role in the country's development, therefore creating many more opportunities for investors, for local and foreign investors. Since the relation established between Bahrain and Germany, they have been always a trading partner, and in the I can report that in the first 9 months of 2021, bilateral relation reached almost 550 million euro. And currently, as we know all, there are more than 30 German companies directly operating in the kingdom. For example, we have with us today DHL, and here who here I'd like to thank for being with us, and Deutsche Flugsicherung. Also, they are active there, but just those as an example, as we hear for the active German companies in the kingdom. But the potential is still there, and so that I am glad to hear from your excellencies and from you, Mrs. Buhaji and Rad, for being with us, for supporting this webinar, for supporting German-Bahraini business relation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Al-Makhlafi, Abdulaziz, for this introduction and welcome remark. Now I may hand over to His Excellency Ambassador Abdullah for his welcome remark. Please, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Excellency Hall, and thank you to Ambassador Buckingham to being a part of it. Abdulaziz Al-Makhlafi, I mean, very supportive. and Ghorfa in evolution. Of course, Mr. Raad will come, and our, of course, presentation, Dalal Wahaji, I'm sure she will put a lot of things in the right position of what's going on in Bahrain, especially that we are talking about current development and business opportunity for German organizations and companies. As I don't want to repeat a lot of things which have been said, but it's important also to mention that 2022 will be a year we will be celebrating our diplomatic relation with Germany, which will be 50 years of our bilateral relation. And I think before that and since that, our business has been booming. But at the same time, we have to mention also, when we see the figures, I mean, in 2019, 2020, despite the challenges of COVID, we had some increase in our trade, which is over 620, but I feel there are more opportunities that we can work together and find out a better areas in which we can have a better cooperation. I would leave that, of course, that to others, but thank you also for the companies which are supporting, and they could talk about what is going on in Bahrain and how things are there. The most important question is always, I mean, we know there are a lot of challenges in the region. At the same time, work together, everybody says, I mean, as a GCC, we always keep saying that we complete each other rather than competing each other. So we have areas and in which we feel our friend, we work with other partners in GCC to fulfill their requirement and vice versa. So the question is always, I mean, which would be asked, why Bahrain? Why do business to, I mean, any organization? Of course, we could talk about a lot of things that we have similarity in the region, but there are issues which some of them was already mentioned, and I think they are very, very important when we talk about best value operating costs of up to 42 more cost effective than neighboring countries. When we have skilled workers, forward-looking regulations that have met international standard. There are a lot of amendments to us, whether that was related to business, openness, our labor market force. One of the other things which is, I think is very important is the social life and the freedom of faith. So these are areas that people need to know about when we talk about liberal lifestyles, about freedom of faith. You can feel people. When you talk about most of the island, they are welcoming, friendly, and working together. And I think another issue which is also important, people have to know Bahrain is the closest country to the biggest economy in the Arab world and a member of G20, which is Saudi Arabia. And despite advancement that we have in communication and transportation, the closeness matters. And you can do businesses sometimes from Bahrain, I think Saudi as well, versa. And as I said, we are talking about a region which is booming. We have a market, Bahrain as a gateway for a market of 1.4 trillion GCC market and beyond. And when we talk about Bahrain as a gateway, it's not only to GCC, but it's beyond that. And there are a lot of areas that we feel we can work together and find a lot of other companies from Germany could participate. I mean, I will mention some priorities according to our 2030 vision, which would be, I mean, areas of education, especially vocational training and tertiary educations. We can have healthcare, pharmaceutical, logistics, aluminum and downstreaming, renewable energy and energy efficiency, fintech, financial institution, a lot of other areas, tourism. All these are areas that we feel Germany can support. In addition to that, I mean, you know, we have a new causeway between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. We have the metro, which is going on. We already have distributed the metro requirement to a lot of companies in Bahrain. We are happy to see that Despite all these challenges, Bahrain was able, according to International Monetary Fund, to have a GDP growth by 2.4 for last year and 3.1 for this year. So these are all good news, and I'm sure the 30 billion economy recovery project has a lot of areas there that Germany can really participate and benefit from that. So I know I have 5 minutes. I'm sure I'm not out of time. So I don't want to talk about a lot of others, to leave Dalal Muhajli to talk about it. But I would like again also to thank Ambassador Bekimon for his help, and we work together. And we see each other now because of the COVID more than we used to see previously. Thanks also goes to Abdulaziz Mukhlafi and Ghorfa, and I really feel that there are areas that we can improve and raise our trade, especially at and the celebration of 50 years between our two countries. Thank you, Mr. Wolf, again, and thank you for listening to me by everyone. And when I talked about the social life, the legislation involvement, I think Rad knows what I'm talking about. Thank you again. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this detailed introduction also into business segments where entrepreneurship, German entrepreneurship is required additionally. Thank you very much. I may hand over now to His Excellency Ambassador Böckmann. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schwipper. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Abdullah bin Abdulatif and Secretary General Abdulaziz Al-Mukhlafi. And it's a great pleasure today to be here with EDB, Madam Dalal Buheji, and DHL, one of the pillars of the German-Bahraini economic cooperation, Mr. Makram. So I'm especially grateful to Ghorfa and to EDB for organizing today's webinar, and very timely, because shortly after a new German government has taken office in December last year. And what is new in German foreign policy is an even stronger focus on climate protection and energy transition. You can see this in the setup of the government. The Federal Foreign Office is now in charge of international climate negotiations and diplomacy. And the Federal Ministry for Economy has become the Federal Ministry for Economy and Climate Action, because it has now the responsibility for renewable energy. And with this new setup, Germany will make its best efforts to replace the import of fossil fuels with the import of green hydrogen. And in Bahrain, as in Germany, I feel that the awareness for areas such as environment, nature, climate, resources has increased. Bahrain, of course, is an oil-producing country, but also a small island nation with densely populated and low-lying areas, and therefore facing also the risks of climate change. And we appreciate very much the commitment of Bahrain to reach net zero emissions by 2060. So now is the time to move from ambition to action, and German companies could partner with companies in Bahrain to offer solutions to the challenges of climate protection and energy transition. The forthcoming Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue at the end of March will offer the chance for high-level networking and exchange. It will probably be a hybrid event with high-level physical participation of ministers and leaders, and we are hopeful that Bahrain will participate on a high level. Now, we had talked about COVID, and even in COVID-19 times, we are happy to see that business relations between Germany and Bahrain are developing steadily. If we look to the numbers, Bahrain 2020 exported goods to the value of 124 million euro to Germany. That was an increase of 28% compared to 2019. And Germany exported goods to the value of 499 million euro to Bahrain in 2020, 31.3% more than 2019. And if we look to the first 7 months of 2021, the trend continues, because German exports to Bahrain amounted to 314 million euro, which was an increase even of 46.7% compared to the first 7 months of 2020. And some German companies, of course, have for a long time seen the benefits of investing in Bahrain for the geographical location at the heart of the Gulf, especially logistic companies like DHL, or companies relying mainly on exports to the Gulf and beyond. And we as German Embassy are working hand in hand with the German Saudi Liaison Office. This is the chamber structure of the German Chambers of Commerce responsible for Bahrain, with its office in Dammam, to help German companies in all situations. There's also locally a German-speaking business roundtable, which meets regularly as a very useful network, and always happy also to receive guests, visitors who come by. And since the onset of COVID-19, we are holding a weekly short video conference, actually this morning also on Tuesday morning, with the representatives of the German companies and the German community for a quick update on the current situation, COVID, travel, but also business issues. And as was mentioned in the film, a benefit for German companies is Bahrain's highly educated workforce, 100 years of formal education in 2019, and the participation of Bahrainis in the labor market at more than 20% of total employment. The very attractive living conditions for experts were mentioned. I can confirm this. And coming back to the political field, the establishing of diplomatic relations between Bahrain and Israel, which is also complemented by increasing business links between the two countries in fields such as health, water, agriculture, and information technology, offers German companies new chances for trilateral cooperation in strategic sectors. German-Bahraini cooperation could look closely at best practice models in both countries. The health sector in Bahrain has proved great efficiency in dealing with COVID-19, and Bahrain is seeking to become a regional hub for medical tourism. And German medical services and medical technology enjoy an outstanding reputation. We see this with Bahraini citizens still seeking medical treatment in Germany, and recently also with German university teachers teaching at Bahraini universities in the field of medicine. So a lot of potential for cooperation. And another sector which I only would briefly mention is infrastructure, especially in the field of water and wastewater management. And maybe a final common element, both Germany and Bahrain have a very vital startup scene. Bahrain was ranked among the world's top 5 fastest growing startup ecosystems. Subsidies and a liberal tax regime could be reasons a startup could consider a move to Bahrain. And the same goes for availability of funding, because Bahrain is listed in the top 10 Africa and MENA countries for early stage funding. We are very grateful to Ghorfa for your continuous support and the excellent delegations you have brought to Bahrain, and hope very much to welcome more delegations as soon as the current COVID-19 related travel warning can be lifted. We are here as German Embassy in Manama to assist you. Our visa section is open for those vaccinated with vaccines approved in Germany. We're even offering tourism visas, but for example, for your business partners, visas are issued for all urgent reasons, independently of the vaccination status, and business-related reasons, of course, fall under this. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to join this conversation.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this multi-dimensional presentation. New German government to business opportunities and visa affairs, really a roundup of all necessary and important matters currently required. I may hand over now to our main speaker, key speaker, Mrs. Dalal Bouheji. As introduced before, Mrs. Dalal has, I think, a long-lasting career within Economic Development Board of Bahrain, and she is now the head of and executive director for investment origination at the EDB. I would like to hand over to you, and then please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and good morning and good afternoon to those who are joining us today. I'm really delighted to be part of today's webinar. I want to also kickstart by thanking Ghorfa for being such an amazing partner in putting this together, but also both ambassadors, Your Excellencies, thank you so much for your speeches today, which I'm hopefully going to as well elaborate a little bit more on it. I'm going to be sharing a presentation with you that will showcase the different business opportunities and Bahrain's mandate. But before I kickstart and share my presentation, I just want to kind of give you an overview of my role. As Mr. Wolf had mentioned, I'm the Executive Director at the Bahrain Economic Development Board, working with a team on the ground in Bahrain, but also 12 offices globally, with an office in Germany as well, looking to attract foreign direct investment and supporting companies to come and set up. So with that, I'll be sharing my screen. Just give me a minute. Nico, can you see my presentation? Perfect. Yes. Fantastic. So who we are at the EDB, we initiated and started the Bahrain Economic Development Board about 20 years ago with a main mandate to grow Bahrain's private sector economy. We're chaired by His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince Prime Minister, who has started the Bahrain Economic Development Board to diversify away from oil and gas and grow the private sector economy. We've been very successful to date with our diversification strategy. We started 20 years ago with oil contributing to 42% of our GDP, and to date we're about 18.5%, followed by financial services, manufacturing, and other sectors as well. And we'll continue to grow different sectors of Bahrain's economy, which I'm going to speak a little bit in more detail to see if there's any opportunities as well for you to explore. Now, Bahrain is a small island, a population of 1.5 million, but we depend heavily on FDI. So if I draw your attention to the chart on the right, the FDI stock relative to GDP, we're double the global average, which showcases that Bahrain depends on FDI, but also have the right value proposition and the right elements in place to attract investments to come and set up. We're also strategically located. We are blessed to be in the center of the universe, where you can actually cover both the East and the West. You can cover all the way from the Asian markets to the American markets all in one day. But also in terms of connectivity in the region, we have very strong connectivity. We're approximately 1 hour flight distance for most of the GCC countries, and about 3-hour flight distance from most of the MENA region and the India market, and up to 6 to 7 hours to the European market, which shows you we have very great connectivity. We have also invested heavily recently on our infrastructure. We have completed the modernization of Bahrain Airport. It's a 1.1 billion modernization project. We also are embarking on a second causeway, the King Hamad Causeway, connecting us between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, which is a 4 billion project. And also we have started in the metro project in Bahrain, which is a 1.5 billion that's going under tender process right now. We have our local national carrier, Gulf Air as well, that will continue to expand its routes within the region. And we're proud to say we have very strong connectivity through Gulf Air within the MENA region. Now, both ambassadors have mentioned, why should you invest in Bahrain and why Bahrain will be the great place to do business in. We try to summarize it in 3 main pillars. The first pillar is the cost of doing business. We're up to 30% more cost effective when it comes to operation, but also in terms of living in many sectors. We have 0% corporate tax, and companies can own up to 100% foreign ownership in any establishment that they have in Bahrain. We also have our people, which are number 1 asset. to be honest. We have very talented, skilled workforce. And you can see Bahrainis are the employees of choice when it comes to many sectors of Bahrain's economy. For instance, in financial services, 70% of the workforce are Bahrainis, and there's no Bahrainization quota when it comes to that. But we've been very successful in being strong in this sector with 100 years of banking, making us very strong in that sector. But also you can see that in manufacturing, healthcare, logistics, and other sectors. We've always ranked as a top 10 place for expat to live in, 8 globally and second in terms of MENA. So it's a great place as well for relocation of expats when looking at expanding and setting up in Bahrain. I've mentioned the location, which is a very important element for companies in many sectors, whether it's logistics, financial services, manufacturing. We're well positioned in Bahrain with an access to a wider market in the MENA region. We also have the only country in Bahrain that can actually, or in the region, that can actually clear goods from port to air, sea to air in under 2 hours. This is a value proposition that's very strong for a logistics company that wants to actually ship goods into Bahrain and be able to share them to the wider region. The Team Bahrain is also a slogan that has been inaugurated and has put together by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Prime Minister, which is basically us as a government working hand in hand with the private sector to create the right infrastructure in place, to create the right ecosystem in place for companies to come and set up in a seamless manner. We'll make sure that we advocate for any policy changes. We'll make sure that we have the right infrastructure in place. We'll make sure that we as a Team Bahrain, you have a seamless experience in setting up in Bahrain, but also supporting you with your expansion opportunities. We have multiple free trade agreements with many countries, 22 free trade agreements, 34 investment protection and promotion agreements, and 41 double taxation and avoidance agreements. As you can see, within the MENA region, we have trade agreements with almost most of the countries. And also when you look at the Western or European markets and the Asian markets, we have free trade agreements, for instance, with the USA, which is a very important angle for especially manufacturing companies and logistics companies and so forth, with Singapore, Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland. And we work closely as well with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to continue to work hand in hand and supporting other trade agreements as well. Now, what kind of sectors that we focus on in Bahrain? And we believe that there's an opportunity for you as a company in Germany to explore establishing some sort of an expansion or presence in Bahrain. Financial services will always be an important pillar and driver to our economy. So we believe digital banks, digital platforms, alternative financing such as crowdfunding, venture capital, and back and middle of office operations will be a great place to establish a presence in Bahrain. And these are just some logos of some of the companies that we have in Bahrain. We have about 400 financial institutions licensed, but this is just a snippet of what we have, such as Citi, BNP, and the likes. Manufacturing and logistics are also very strong in Bahrain. As you can see, DHL has a regional headquarters in Bahrain. We believe our logistics value proposition is very strong, hence why we have great logistics players such as DHL and FedEx establishing a presence in Bahrain. We're also very strong in light manufacturing and the production of fast-moving consumer goods, hence why we have Mondelez and Arla as well having their facilities and manufacturing plants in Bahrain. And if you're looking to consider a regional distribution center, we will be the ideal place to consider to establish a regional distribution center to take advantage of our connectivity within the region. Technology is also a very important sector, which is going to be an enabler sector across multiple different sectors. We've been very successful a few years ago in attracting AWS, a regional data center in Bahrain out of the US. And we're looking to attract other data centers as well from Europe and hopefully from Germany to come and set up. And we believe that there is also opportunities for other digital entertainment, e-gaming, and digital platforms to take part. And as we embark towards a digital economy, this sector is going to be a very important sector, an enabler sector across many other sectors. So we're going to see EdTech, Health Tech, Industry 4.0 all play a big role as well in Bahrain. Education and healthcare will always remain to be very important pillars for any economy as it grows. And we believe that that will remain to be a priority for Bahrain. We believe vocational training, specifically when it comes to education will be very important as we embark into new future trends and new future skill set that will be needed, such as coding, programming, and the likes. And we want to see more of that from Germany and Bahrain. Research and development centers will also going to be very important. And as we all know, we went through 2 tough years of COVID-19, and we understood the importance of healthcare and the importance of medicine, biotech, research, and Bahrain wants to position itself as a place to do that. Chronic care and rehab is also growing in Bahrain, and medical tourism is also growing significantly in Bahrain. We just launched a tourism strategy under the Ministry of Industry and Commerce and Tourism, and a big part of it has focused on medical tourism. Last but not least is real estate and tourism. This sector is something that we also want to grow as an economy, which is part of our tourism strategy. Bahrain, as I mentioned earlier, is a population of 1.5 million. In pre-COVID time, we welcomed about 11 million guests to Bahrain, mainly from Saudi Arabia. We want to grow this in the next 3 years to 14 million coming into Bahrain. And for us to be able to grow tourists to come into Bahrain, we need to have the right facilities, whether it's resort developments, wellness retreats, coastal maritime, and retail. And we want to have German players in this sector to also play a role in setting up. So what we will do in EDB to support you, we'll support you with your feasibility. So any data points that you need, any information, we'll make sure that we provide you with it. We will connect you as well with the local stakeholders if needed. We will make sure that you understand Bahrain's ecosystem and how it works. We'll support you with the registration process. Should you want any local partnership, co-investment opportunities, we'll make sure we partner you with the private sector as well to explore opportunities. And last but not least, which is a very important element, is that once you establish your presence in Bahrain, we'll make sure that we will remain in close contact with you and be part of your team to explore any opportunities of expansion, but also address any concerns that you have. This is my contact information. We have a full team on the ground in Bahrain and Germany to support you and to guide you the process, along with our embassy as well. We'll work closely with you. And I just want to say that do visit us in Bahrain. It's very different when you come to Bahrain physically, and we will be here as well to put a full program for you to support you with your visit once you decide on coming in. So thank you so much.
Many thanks, Mrs. Dalal, indeed, for this very impressive presentation. I mean, Bahrain has always been a front runner, starting with the financial services, banking in the GCC. It was the first country to introduce international standard on banking, and now we can see the move towards to digitalization, data, banking, and all those things. This is really highly impressive. How Bahrain seems to seek for new business opportunities in line with technological development. Thank you very much, really. And my question is, would it be possible for you to share with us your presentation? So if possible, you might upload it on the chat yes, so that participants could download it. I think Absolutely. It's a very interesting, short, very precise presentation. Thank you very much. To the audience, we will be able to raise questions afterwards. At the end, we will have a Q&A session, so you may raise questions through the chat function as well. And now I may hand over to Makram Rad. Welcome once again, Mr. Makram, for joining us So we will have an introduction into the business on the ground with a long-lasting history of DHL in Bahrain. Makram is the country manager. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wolf, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate a lot the opportunity, and it's great to be in such a forum. Though we're doing it through our webinar, I think times have dictated this, but we make the most of what we have. So if you allow me to share my screen with a small presentation while I introduce myself. Really conscious of the time as well. I'll briefly introduce myself. My name is Makram Raad. I'm the country manager for DHL Express in Bahrain. I've been with the company for more than 10 years now, serving a lot of roles around the region. And I've been in Bahrain for the past 2 years. And how relevant is my personal experience to what we're discussing today is what I'm coming to. I mean, we've been in Bahrain since 1976. Traditionally, we have picked the kingdom for its strategic geographic location. But with time, more and more, the kingdom has proved how good of an ecosystem it had. And it still continues to pay off now, to the point where I'll get to later on discussing the expansions that we have invested in the kingdom to service the region. I represent the country, but at the same time, we do have the presence of the region here, and our regional hub, as stated before, sits in Bahrain, servicing the MENA region. And here are some figures, and I'll skim through them very quickly just to mention how important of connectivities, as Mrs. Bouhiji mentioned, the connectivities that we have from commercial airlines, in addition to our own network airlines, through the kingdom, transiting through Bahrain, servicing the region as a gateway, not only for the GCC, as His Excellency Sir Abdullah mentioned, but also worldwide, especially being the center of the world, as stated. So we, as a German company, obviously we are under Deutsche Post. Our local presence has a very solid footprint since 1976, and we have a solid market share of close to more than 55%. Just to mention here, in addition to all the capabilities that we have from an aspect of regional air and road distribution, we do play a big role, and we consider ourselves part of the ecosystem that the EDB has discussed. And we also are very keen on working especially with the direction of the leadership of the country about the growth of the logistics, transportation and logistics sector in specific, to contributing to 10% and more of the GDP, try to diversify it away from the oil dependency. For us, that's a mission where we kick in, and we consider ourselves an integral part of this ecosystem. And I'd like here to reaffirm the statement stated by Mrs. Dalal. The EDB, as a semi-government agency, sticks with you as an investment, and they do see things through with you to support you. So that's an added advantage for anyone considering investing in the kingdom from all aspects, be it the infrastructure to legislation, and making sure that the kingdom is truly a business-friendly environment. So we currently operate, as stated, through 5 outlets in the kingdom, covering the geography, and all of our facilities are TAPA certified, and we bring what was mentioned by the excellencies about the standards and the certifications to the kingdom, servicing the market here, and obviously through the regional hub servicing the MENA region. I'll go forward with this, and I'll show a quick snapshot of where we are in a geography of the kingdom. The kingdom is small in geography, as stated before, with the nice brief of Mrs. Dalal, but also holds a big significance in the region, being a great gateway to the region. And we facilitate that in addition to other airlines and integrators. Right, we just recently went through an expansion of our regional hub, in addition to the country office as well with our operation. That's following a very tough couple of years which the world has witnessed. But as you have all, I believe, witnessed, with the downfall of some of the industries, a lot of other sectors have capitalized on the obstacles to turn them into opportunities. Mainly here stating the old development that happened around healthcare, e-commerce. E-commerce is a big sector, right? Today is a great example where we're all sitting behind our screens rather than meeting in person. And I bet a lot of us are ordering a lot of stuff online. This is where we kick in to service that final mile. And we've seen a growth not only in the region, but also globally. And we're glad to be part of that value proposition. In addition to that, as stated, here you can see our reach. Obviously, the figures of the square meters are to be updated now with the new expansion that we're going through. But that only goes to say how well we are and how much of a belief we have in the kingdom, investing and seeing the return on investment. And this is where I encourage all sectors who are considering coming to the region, especially personally, as I've been in the region, with the taxation, with the ecosystem that's proposed as well to help the investments and to actually pamper you. Regardless of who you are, that goes a long way. Here, worth mentioning of one value proposition I believe goes beyond any other asset, the human capital part. The Bahraini market in specific presents a massive talent pool. In the country office, we have more than 70% of our workforce who are Bahraini. But that doesn't mean to say that expats are not looked after as well in the country. As mentioned before, the kingdom ranks among the top countries welcoming expats and making sure that life is friendly for them. So you always, as an investor, have that choice and have that added value to present to your workforce. In addition to our air gateway, we also have the road gateway towards the region. Obviously, throughout the past 2 years, there's been some hurdles due to a lot of legislations around the COVID, obviously dictated by the COVID situation. But now I'm glad to say that we're up and running through a lot of borders and we're servicing our customer base again. So that's in a nutshell about us in Bahrain. I encourage everyone to invest in Bahrain. We've been here for a long time, and God willing, we're staying here for a long time, being part of this ecosystem and helping any business to facilitate trade for them and to launch them to the world. So thanks a lot, everyone.
Mr. Makram, thank you very much for your presentation on well, these are then the facts on the ground, the businesses existing and obviously existing for a long time. Since 1976, German Post is located in Bahrain, and this speaks for itself for obviously a liberal legal and social climate, which makes Bahrain the very interesting place to be. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you may raise questions. There has been one question from Mr. Andreas Schulz, I believe. He asked what strategic role plays tourism in Bahrain's Vision 2030 and how Germany is expected to participate. Maybe Mrs. Dalal, you could comment on this, please.
That's a really good question, and it just kind of reiterates the importance of tourism and why recently, a few weeks ago, Bahrain have launched the economic recovery plan, and part of it, the first plan that came out was the tourism plan. So by 2026, we have put in place a plan to grow Bahrain's tourism. And a major contributor to that growth would be the private sector. We want to bring in different maritime, for instance, opportunities. different exhibition opportunities like MICE and convention centers. We've invested in the new convention center in Bahrain as well, and that should also attract different kind of exhibitions that should come in. Sports and recreation is also two very important subsectors within tourism. Bahrain is quite strong in it. We have the Formula One race, but also we have, the triathlon and other races that do take place. And we want to grow that, whether it's on the manufacturing front. For instance, just to give you an example, Bell Helmet, it's an Italian company that actually manufactures the Formula One hats in Bahrain. So something within that is something that we're keen on growing. Culture and heritage are also two other sectors that we want to further grow to attract international players to come and enjoy. Leisure and entertainment, whether it's waterfront or on land theme parks, is something that we want to also attract. Media and film, as Makram has mentioned, we're moving away from the physical world to the virtual world, but also there's a lot of investment that's going into
which is coming from Mr. Roland Fleck from Nuremberg Trade Fairs in Germany, one of the major trade fair operators in Europe. He asks a question regarding the new Bahrain International Exhibition and Convention Center. Please outline in a nutshell the current status of the exhibition portfolio and what are the plans for the future?
That's also another good question. So it is in final stages of completion, the exhibition center in Bahrain. And we looked at it as well to create a cluster around it. It is strategically located as well, close to the circuit, where we believe that area will be a great place to host exhibitions. If I may ask Mr. Ronald, if you can drop me your email address, I would love to share with you a more detailed presentation outlining all of the opportunities when it comes to that. As I believe for me to answer it will require to go a little bit more detail. So I'll be happy to provide you with more information, but it is definitely in last stages of completion. And we are looking to attract exhibitions as well to take place in the new Bahrain Convention Exhibition Center.
Very good. Thank you very much. Ambassador Abdullah mentioned at the very beginning in his introduction the National Recovery Plan, and I think you touched also shortly on this. I think it had been announced somewhere in November last year, post-pandemic, $30 billion infrastructure plan. Could you focus a little bit on the target, on the opportunities resulting therefrom?
I'll jump on that and maybe answer it. So you're right. As part of the economic recovery plan, we have announced a series of investable projects, whether it's on the real estate or infrastructure projects. We have launched a website, investbahrain.com, where it provides you all of the 30 billion investable projects and the level of participation in that. Some of them are tender-based, but some of them are also open to public in terms of opportunities of collaboration. So I do invite you to look into that. But maybe if I take a further step on the economic recovery plan. Now, the economic recovery plan is for us to reach fiscal deficit by 2026. And for us to be able to do that, we have launched 30 billion worth of investable projects as part of it. But also another part of it is to support investment to come in terms of FDI, but also creating more job opportunities for Bahraini, and to be able to do that, putting in the right training facilities in place and the training programs to be able to create the right skill sets for the future and for these jobs in the next 3 years. And for us to be able to achieve the economic recovery, there's multiple sectors that we are looking at. One of them is tourism, logistics, manufacturing, financial services. Each single one of them has a strategy in place that has already been out to the public, that has been shared by the government of Bahrain, showcasing all the KPIs that we want to achieve in the next few years. So yes, please do visit us. I'll type in the website on the investable projects, and I do welcome you to have a look at it. We have a full team that are working closely with that. So if there's any inquiries, just shoot us an email or reach out to us, and we'll be able to connect you with those investable projects.
Thank you very much. In the meantime, in the chat, there is the email address of Roland Fleck, so maybe you look into that shortly. Now, I would like to come to Makram and ask him shortly. You mentioned in your presentation the human resources aspect, how to get labor, employees from the local market, so hiring Bahraini qualified personnel, as well as, that sounds stupid, importing labor, so employing foreigners in Bahrain. How do you see that process? I noticed during, for example, the presentation from Mrs. Dalal on data centers, etc. So this requires for sure also a lot of highly qualified persons, which you not necessarily always find in the Bahrain market itself. How do you manage this process? How's your experience as long-lasting employer in Bahrain in that regard?
Sure, thanks a lot, so for the question. I mean, without giving any state secrets, we always believe that as DHL globally, we can have all the assets in the world, but at the end of the day, our people are what differentiate us versus any competition. And our value proposition to our customers is always through our people. And diversity is something that we capitalize on massively to provide the quality of service that we provide. So obviously, being in Bahrain, there is always a focus from our side to source from the local market as much as we can. And that's proven through our percentages of Bahrainis, because as I stated, Bahrain is not a market that lacks talent. The talent pool is massive, and this is why we're capitalizing on that. In addition to that, as I stated, diversity is one of our key components of continuous progress, if that makes sense. So wherever we do need other backgrounds, we always resort to that. So I think it's always a fine mix, but obviously being in Bahrain, there's a massive focus from our side to have local talent as much as possible. I hope I've answered your question.
Absolutely, Makram. Thank you very much. And I think by this we are actually coming to an end of this session. I would like to thank you all very much. Your Excellencies, Excellency Abdullah, Mr. Bergman, to our key speakers, Dalal Bouheji and Makram Rad, and all the participants. I think it was, again, a very good close insight into business opportunities in the Kingdom of Bahrain, and also very detailed the business segments which can be explored and are under development, whether it comes from Bahrain Metro to IT services. So a huge range of business opportunities, and I think we are all invited to come to Bahrain. We will come as Ghorfa delegation, and maybe I can hand over to Abdelaziz Al-Makhlafi as a very last word, if possible. Abdelaziz. Your microphone, please.
There is no comments from my side, just to thank you all for the effective moderation for this session. We are in the minute. It is 1 hour and it is on time, good planned, and from the inspiration of the two speeches of Excellencies, Ambassador Abdullah and Ambassador Bookman, we will take in consideration to work together with the economic development, with the support of both ambassadors, also enhancing and supporting this business relation. Excellency Abdullah, that's 50 years anniversary. We are from the business people and can here speak from the member of the Ghorfa and from myself and from the business community. We will be part of these activities, and we will support the business relation between the two countries. Not forget here to thank our colleagues, the team who prepared these events from the Economic Development Board, Ms. Farah, and my colleague from the Ghorfa, Mr. Rico Arnold, for their effort to prepare this successful webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
See you. Thank you. Well done.